Good afternoon, colleagues, and welcome to this hybrid meeting of the Communities Committee. I would remind all attendees that the meeting is being recorded and webcast live on the Council's YouTube channel. I've agreed to the attendance of some members remotely and would remind all remote attendees to mute their microphones when not speaking. For any members of the public watching, please note that all the public committee reports, including details of specific recommendations, are available on the Council's website. Do we have any apologies or substitutions?
Thanks, Convener. We have apologies for Councillor Gall and Councillor MacDonald, with Councillors Fotheringham and Beattie attending as substitutes.
Thank you very much. Do we have any declarations of interest and statements of transparency? I'll start. I've got a declaration of interest for agenda item number 4, report 308/25. I've attended meetings with the petitioners and officers and initially delivered the said petition on their behalf to Angus House. On this basis, I'll take no part in the discussion and leave the room for this item. Also, a statement of transparency for item number 7, report 311/25. I visited the site and met residents while walking about. I listened to them but gave no view, so will remain in the room and take part in any discussion and vote. Do we have any other declarations of interest, statements of transparency? Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Item 5, report 309/25. Just a statement of transparency that I'm a council representative on the Tay-Cities Region Tay-Cities Joint Board.
Thank you. Anyone else? No. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 3, the minute of the previous meeting. Is this agreed? Agreed. Thank you. In relation to the deputation request, we've received a request from Mr. Stephen Morrison in relation to item number 4, petition the traffic concerns at Baltic Street, Mill Street, Mount Road and Rosehill, Montrose. Do members agree to this request? Thank you. I propose that we take this request before item 4. Councillor Scott, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. Sorry, I was having trouble with my electronic hand there, but similar to Councillor Duff's statement of transparency, I'm a representative on the Tay-Cities. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So we've got a deputation now from Mr. Stephen Morrison, and you have 10 minutes. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Did come on? Is it on now? Sorry, guys. Thank you for allowing me to speak today on behalf of the residents of Baltic Street, Mill Street, Mount Road and Rosehill regarding report number 308/25. I am not representing businesses or organisations, only the residents who live daily with the traffic, noise and safety issues in these streets. Point 1, all 4 streets are 20 miles an hour zones. The report correctly notes that all 4 streets are 20 mph and not 30. However, the Council's own survey data shows that in every location, both the average and the 85th percentile speeds are well above the limit. Baltic Street, average 27, 85th percentile, 33, Mill Street 26 and 31, Mount Road 24 and 30, Rose Hill 23 and 29. By definition, the 85th percentile means 85% of vehicles are at or below that speed, and 15% are faster. So on Baltic Street, roughly 15% of traffic is travelling above 33 miles per hour in a 20 miles per hour zone, and the majority of vehicles are exceeding the legal limit. Residents also regularly observe vehicles travelling faster than the survey figures suggest, particularly in quieter periods, indicating the real-world problem may be greater than the snapshot recorded. I would ask why the Council has not shown the full speed band data, for example, how many vehicles are travelling between 20 and 25, 30, 25 and 30, or above 30 into the maximum speed that's being used on the road. That information is captured by the same monitoring equipment that would let the committee see the true scale of non-compliance rather than relying on averages and percentiles. That was referenced Appendix 1 Speed Survey Table. Point 2, HGV levels. The Council declaration. The report declares HGVs make up around 6.9% of traffic and claims this is below the national average. Those national averages relate to trunk and strategic routes, not 20 miles per hour residential streets. A 6 or 7% HGV rate in this context is high and it's inconsistent with the street's intended residential use. That was referenced Appendix 1, traffic volume data. Point 3, business consultation incomplete. Only a small selection of premises were consulted. Missing were the carpet shop, 3 pubs, 2 hotels, a nursing home, the co-op and corner shops, all of which generate deliveries and customer traffic. Without these, the picture of legitimate business use is incomplete. Reference report section 4 and Appendix 1, business consultation summary. Point 4 is emergency services access. I need a drink, sorry. Excuse me. The report suggests a one-way layout could delay emergency vehicles, but both the fire and the ambulance service bases are at the south end of Montrose, so emergency vehicles ready travel north through Baltic Street. A northbound one-way would not hinder them. It could actually provide a clearer, safer run through the current bottlenecks. Reference report section 5.5, option 5. Point 5 is traffic displacement and risk assessment. The risk summary warns that a one-way system could displace about 646 vehicles southbound per day, creating environmental impacts or new requests for measures elsewhere. That reasoning is one-sided. It's assuming Baltic Street must carry the entire burden, yet sharing that load is treated as a problem. Streets such as Midlinks, yes, sorry, I was thinking, are wider and better suited to carry a share of the traffic safely. Balanced management should distribute impact fairly, not preserve the current imbalance at residents' expense. Reference Appendix 2, risk summary and traffic flow analysis. Point 6, ongoing industrial movements. Despite assurances that the RICS had rerouted via the Relief Road, residents continue to see a large industrial loading shuffle running repeatedly between the port and the industrial estate throughout the day. This demonstrates that port-related industrial movements still rely on Baltic Street, contrary to the impression given in the report. Reference Appendix 1, business engagement response. Point 7, unsupported claims about increased speed. The report states that a one-way may increase speeds, but provides no data or examples to support that claim. If other one-way streets in Montrose have produced higher speeds, the Council should present that evidence, for without it, the claim is unproven. Reference Appendix 1, Option Assessment Table. Point 8, phased and proportionate improvements. If one-way system was implemented and speeding then became an issue, further measures could be introduced in stages, ensuring each step is proportionate and justified by results. We should be taking these measures in measured steps and not all in one go. Reference Report Section 6, Financial Implications, and Appendix 1, Option Costing Table. Point 9, ineffective advisory signs and lack of enforcement. Drivers already ignore existing 20 miles per hour signs. More signage means more signs, but no more compliance. Adding further advisory signs will not change behaviour without enforcement or physical redesign. Police Scotland have already confirmed that it will not actively enforce 20 miles per hour limits, so relying solely on signage cannot realistically improve compliance. Option 4 is therefore largely symbolic rather than effective. Reference Report Recommendation in Appendix 1, Option 4. Point 10, underreported accidents. Only 3 injury collisions since 2020 are listed, but this captures police-reported incidents only. Minor crashes, vehicle damage, near misses go unrecorded. So the true scale is higher than the data suggests. Reference Appendix 3, Collision Data Table. Residents are not asking for costly or extreme works, only for fairness and evidence-based action. Option 4, advisory signage, will not bring meaningful improvement. We respectfully ask that the committee to reanalyse speed data using a consistent method, consult all affected residents and businesses, verify RICS and industrial vehicle movements noted in Appendix 1, re-evaluate Option 5 as part of a phased improvement plan, progressing as required to achieve compliance and safety. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Morrison. Do we have any questions? Okay, so we'll move on to the report now by Graham Daly, item 4.
Thank you, Chair. This report updates members on actions taken in relation to a petition previously considered by committee having been received on behalf of residents of Baltic Street, Mill Street, Mount Road and Rosehill, Montrose regarding concerns about traffic issues in the area. In response, officers have carried out investigations and assessed possible options, and the findings are presented in this report. It is proposed that appropriate action is planned in relation to the installation of advisory signage, directional signage, at suitable locations as detailed in the report. I would highlight to members that a significant amount of officer time has been invested in carrying out a large amount of data gathering exercise so we can make an evidence-led decision. And in particular, I would draw members' attention to section 6.5 for a summary of the key reasons for reaching the conclusion that the option of advisory signage is preferable. I am joined by officers from the Roads and Transportation Service who are available to assist with any queries regarding the report. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councillor Cowdy.
Thank you very much. This is for Mr. Daly. Apologies if I've missed it in the paper, but do you have any examples of situations which would be broadly comparable where additional advisory signage has made a difference to speed? That would be helpful in kind of picking up on one of the concerns raised that the advisory signage won't make any difference. Thank you.
I would first of all advise the advisory signage. It relates to the routing of heavy goods vehicle as opposed to the speeding aspect. In terms of the effectiveness, I think I will invite my colleagues from the road service who may be aware of where we've applied similar signage elsewhere, just to give them a moment to think. I would add that, as stated in the report, this is combined with direct communication to the businesses who we know use the route. So it's not in isolation that we're applying the signage. But I would invite my colleagues, Mr. Barnes or Mr. Hudson, to come in.
Thanks, Graham. I'll take that one. Thanks for the question, Councillor Cowdy. Just trying to think off the top of my head there, I can't think of any examples where we've put in similar signage to advise against HGV routing. Predominantly, we've only really used that in rural situations where certain rural routes and things can't take larger vehicles, so we've tried to advise that they use alternative routes. But in town centres, I personally can't think of any situations unless colleague Andy Barnes can.
Thanks, Craig. I would just concur with that. I'm not aware of any situations where we've done that either.
Thank you. That's very honest. Thank you very much.
Councillor Melville.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you for that, Mr. Daly. This is a sort of slightly broader question, but it is relevant to the report. We've seen a number of these petitions come forward about speeding, and we've been assured by officers that the MOG that is currently underway looking at road speeds across Angus will be relevant to this. So I'm just wondering, have you got a progress report on that, and when do you expect that to bring forward a report? Because that will obviously govern how we deal with things like this in the future, as well as any sort of physical infrastructure that we are looking to put in place.
Thank you, Councillor Melville. As you reference, a member officer working group has been established to review our speed limit strategy. There has been, I believe, 3 meetings of that group. It is our intention to bring a report providing an update and the outcome of the working MOG to the next cycle of this committee, which is, I believe, January next year. And that will be a material consideration going forward when we receive requests for changes to speed limits or any matter really regarding the road network and our application of our speed limit strategy.
Thank you.
Councillor Proctor.
Thank you very much, Convener. Thanks very much for your excellent in-depth presentation. I'd just like to ask Mr. Daly, if the signage, the extra signage is put in place and we find through time that this doesn't seem to be working, are we willing to go back and have a look at some of the other measures that we've indicated in the paper?
Yes, I think we're all willing to consider if there's a material change in circumstances, whether it's speeding or any other issue. And I think there's many examples where we have reassessed, for example, speeding, because situations do change. So absolutely, we'll reconsider if it's appropriate to do so. I would just remind members that the layout is that you do have retailers that have service yards along that route, and it's essential for their continued operation that they have deliveries. So we are unable to eliminate the use of this route by heavy goods vehicle. What we're really targeting is more so the route from the port to the industrial units. And as I said, I think we can have success in terms of engaging with the businesses. And the feedback I have is that when we've approached the businesses, they have been cooperative in terms of they would like to ensure that they are, whether it's subcontractors or directly drivers employed by them, that they do comply with the direction. So we are encouraged by that, but we'll have to be realistic that we will not eliminate HGVs from using this route because it's essential for the continued operation of the businesses.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, Convener. Is it fair to say, Mr. Daly, Mr. Morrison rightly points out that the average speed is still over 20 mile per hour limit, but is it fair to say that in comparable surveys in 30 mile per hour areas, the speed is still significantly higher. So the 20-mile zones does reduce the speed, just maybe not as much as people would wish.
Thank you, Councillor Whiteside. I think it is fair comment that, to observe that the average speeds are below 30 miles per hour. And if we had not taken the previous action to lower the speed from 30 to 20, based on the speed surveys we carry out elsewhere in a 30 zone, of course we can't say for definite, but I think it would be a reasonable conclusion to say that the speeding would be more than likely to be above 30, the average speed. So yes, it's correct that average speeds were above 20, but they were below 30 and most likely were lower than they would be if we hadn't taken the step to put in place a 20. And I think the other thing is that if we'll compare it with other areas of Angus where we have a similar speed limit restriction 20, it's not dissimilar, and hence the conclusion is that we do not feel there is a significant speeding issue. However, we would be prepared to assess it again in the future if appropriate, and it just wouldn't be proportionate to take action beyond what we're proposing in the report.
Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Deputy Convener. Councillor Melville mentioned the speed traffic MOG, Member Officer Working Group that's currently in operation, to look at the strategy of speed limits throughout our local authority area, being Angus. However, this is already a 20-mile-an-hour zone, so I would presume that the strategy MOG isn't going to recommend a lower speed limit than that. So when it comes to enforcement, that's not our position to do that. That job belongs to Police Scotland with any enforcement action, particularly around speeding. So without trying to preempt the outcome of the Member Officer Working Group, because this is already a 20-mile-an-hour zone, and we've mentioned this before with the speeding MOG, that if the outcome is that we were to have blanket 20-mile-an-hour zones across Angus, as we can't enforce those, that down to the police, then the only other option is to build speed humps. So that would mean that we're going to have speed humps throughout the length and breadth of Angus, which I'm sure most people wouldn't quite like as much as the amount of complaints that I and I'm sure every other elected member gets. So if we were to go down that route, what would be the cost implications to the council if we were to start putting speed humps in here, there and everywhere, if that was the outcome of the speeding MOG?
I think, Councillor Gregg, that's a matter that we will address it when we bring the report on the conclusions of the Member Officer Working Group. Essentially, what is the practicality of applying a blanket 20-mile-an-hour across Angus? And I would also draw attention to members, we did do a public consultation seeking the public's view on that, and I think the correct forum would be when we bring up the report with the outcome. But you are quite correct in your observation that the cost, if we had to the infrastructure with speed humps, or whether it's a give and take island as we have in some locations, the cost would be very high and potentially excessive to do this across, unaffordable to do it across the whole of Angus. And it's always been the case, I think, where it's applied is that there is an expectation of, I don't know if self-policing is maybe the best term to use, but there is a social responsibility to comply with the speed limit and really the conditions of the road. And I think road safety will always, emphasise that point. But I think really the points you make, Councillor Gregg, while they're valid, I think it's something probably more appropriate to speak further on when we present the outcome of the MOG.
Any further questions? Okay, I'd like to ask the Director and myself if we can today commit to carrying out another traffic count and speed survey in approximately 6 months' time, and that the results of that survey are shared with local members and the petitioner. And if there is shown to be an increase in speed or HGV numbers, we can then reassess the options outlined in Appendix 2.
I think I would refer back to my answer to Councillor Proctor, and yes, we are prepared to carry out another survey when we do undertake it elsewhere. Given that it's a relatively low cost, though there is officer time involved, I would be agreeable to carrying that out in 6 months' time to reassess the situation, whether there has been any, I would describe if there's been any material change. I think in terms of just, as I said, a lot of the HGVs will be dependent on the retailers and their practices in terms of the vehicle. So I think it's difficult to just say blanket, there will be no reduction in HGVs, but I would give a commitment, yes, to take the undertaking to repeat the exercise in 6 months in terms of the speed survey and the traffic count. If there is a material change, we would reassess the options, but to manage expectations, looking at the options as we've done, it does seem unlikely that there will be a significant change or that any of the options will become more viable. However, the advantage we have is that this would provide objective data that we can compare it against. So apologies if that's a bit long-winded, but the answer is yes.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Deputy Convener. As I said earlier, I've received many emails about raising concerns about speeding, not just in Forfar, but in the other areas within my ward, Padnarm, Kingsmuir, Gowan Bank. This committee and council have had petitions from Gowan Bank. We've had the Dundee Road Action Group from Forfar have been in. We have this one in front of us today as well, and I'm sure there are similar cases within Arbroath and other towns within Angus as well. As I've previously said, and as Mr Daly intimated there's only so much that we can do as a local authority. We can put the signs out, we can encourage different behaviours from the public. We rely on the police to enforce this, and if the police won't enforce it, then as a local authority, there's very little we can do about that. We can speak to our MSPs and we can raise it through that way. We can speak to our MPs, because ultimately driving standards in the UK and here in Scotland belongs to the DVSA, which is a reserved matter. So again, we need to speak to our MPs about that. I've time and time again said that the standard of driving, and I say this as a former driving instructor, is poor. People need to be able to drive to the conditions. They need to be able to drive at appropriate speeds and stick to speed limits within our towns and our villages, whether that's 30 or whether that's 20. We do as much as we can. The onus is on the public to work with us on this one. Please stick to the speed limits. If you're round about a school or nurseries or parks, reduce the speed. It's in everyone's interest that people do that. As I said, there's only so much we can do, there's so much the police can do, but we really need the drivers to be with us on this one, because ultimately without their help and support, we're not going to get any further.
Thank you very much. Councillor Proctor.
Thank you very much, Convener. I'd just like to reiterate what Councillor Gregg said. I mean, in my ward, for example, we have the A94 main trunk route and the village of Glams, Charleston, very close by. So the same things prevail. But one thing I would just like to do is thank Mr Daly for your promise that the matter will be looked again should the need arise. And I thank you for your candour there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Vice Convener. Yeah. Again, the same, I have issues. I've got lorries hurtling through the length and breadth of Brechin, heading to Montrose Port. The busier that gets, the greater impact there is to the town. And, the more complaints that we receive, people are really concerned about it. So, the petitioners have my sympathy, because, I absolutely get where they are. But yeah, again, delighted that you're going to look at this again in 6 months, so there's some comparable data. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Okay, thank you. Do we agree to the recommendations with the inclusion of my ask that we reassess the situation in 6 months? Thank you.
Thank you, colleagues. We'll move on to item agenda number 5, the Tay Cities Region deal, Angus Fund projects and reshaping the deal update. And we have Mark Davidson with us, please.
Convener, before we move on to that, could I apologise? I forgot to note that I remember the Tay Cities deal along with Councillor Duff and Councillor Scott. Please accept my apologies. Probably my age.
Good afternoon, members. This report provides an update on the progress with the Tay Cities Region deal as we move towards year 6 of the 10-year deal. The deal so far has enabled £155 million of approved funding, levering in £180 million of other funding and supporting 2,450 jobs in the region. This report provides an update on the progress of the projects within Angus, including the Angus Fund, skills projects being delivered by Dundee and Angus College, and projects within the Culture and Tourism programme, which include Hospital Field and Signal Tower Museum. Also included within the report is an update on the Montrose Skills Academy funded by the Industrial Investment Fund. The report also provides members with an update on the reshaping work that is currently being developed by the Tay Cities Deal Partnership, and a further report will be brought back to members in due course.
Thank you, Mr Davidson. Do we have any questions? Councillor Melville.
Thank you, Convener. Just referencing the table on page 25 about the housing project, which is now on target for submission this month. Can you just remind us how much we are looking to spend on that and what we're hoping to achieve there?
Through yourself, Convener. The housing project is 2 projects. One is Invertay at Milnefaith, the second one is Hillview at Brechin, and it's a £3 million investment. The projects themselves are looking at renewable sources to help the heating and insulation of the buildings, and at different ages of buildings. So Invertay House being a listed building, and putting modern technologies into there brings its own challenges, but we've got the experts in to help us bring that forward. The Hillview one is looking at insulation and different heating types that will support our residents, and looking at supporting new technologies throughout the period of time there as well.
Thank you. No.
That was basically my question. I had forgotten where the money was going to be spent and which project, but I've been answered that. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Devine. Any further questions? Councillor Shepherd.
Thanks, Convener. This question kind of covers items 5 and 6 and is on behalf of one of my councillor colleagues. Is there not something that we can do as part of bioregioning Tayside and gives our climate change work a real oomph whilst delivering something really impactful via the Tay Cities deal?
Again, through yourself. All the projects that we are developing within Angus are linked to low carbon, and have to have the impact of carbon reduction anyway. So I would say that, you know, throughout the region and throughout Angus, we are looking at every opportunity to make an impact on our sustainability and carbon reduction as well. The Mercury programme that was developed as part of the wider ambition for Angus was to create that opportunity of low carbon and bring forward these projects in due course. And any projects that are brought through Strand 2 would have that bigger impact as well.
Thank you. Councillor Whiteside.
Thanks, Convener, and thanks for that, Mark. Obviously, this is a huge opportunity to lever in more projects for Angus. I'm just wondering if, given the timescale, we've got enough projects that could be brought forward quickly enough.
Again, through yourself, Convener. Officers are looking at projects. The partnership itself, the Tay Cities Region Partnership, is developing the criteria for any new projects that come forward. And I think there are, without bringing lots of small projects forward, it has to be big impactful projects that are brought forward. So that's being looked at currently just now, and officers will take that criteria, develop opportunities within Angus, and as said, we'll bring back a report in due course. But time is of the essence, without a doubt.
Thank you. Is there any? Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, convener. Maybe I would just ask Mr Davidson perhaps to give us a little bit of an outline on the Montrose Commercial Park, which might be one of those new additional projects, perhaps.
Again, convener. The commercial park itself, we are developing that through the Angus Fund. That was a change from the 04 site into the commercial park. It is building momentum. There's a lot of businesses are showing a lot of interest. There have been announcements, international announcements, looking to take land at Montrose as well. The pre-application opportunity was last week, 2 weeks ago, sorry, within Montrose, and there was quite a lot of interest in that and real opportunities within Montrose, and wider as well, not just in Montrose, but wider Angus as well. So that will continue to develop, and we will continue to look at opportunities for any expansion in that area as well.
Thank you. Mark, could you just expand? Is there anything you can expand on the connected Montrose one that's below the Montrose Commercial Park one?
Thank you. So Connected Montrose is looking at the road network between the north of Montrose and the port area as well. So we have consultants who have carried out a mini stag appraisal, looking at the traffic impacts and opportunities that can happen between the two areas in Montrose as well. So this is currently being developed, and an outline business case will be with us by the end of this year, and bring that forward.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further questions? Any comments? My mic isn't on. I do apologise. We'll move to the recommendations. Recommendation 1, note the progress made to date on the delivery of the Tay-Cities regional deal. Number 2, note that the Tay-Cities Joint Committee has agreed a process to reshape. Oh. Councillor Scott, did you want to come in there?
Thanks, convener. Yeah, I had my hand up for a comment, but you moved on quickly. Just to say that I was, disappointed that the Angus Rural Mobility Hub's no longer to be in Brechin. However, pleased to see it going forward. The Montrose Commercial Park, that concerns me because, again, that'll be more infrastructure, more lorries, more cars, more whatever going through our town, the town of Brechin, which has an impact. So again, that raises a concern for me. And I'm delighted to see, Invertay and Hillview, that £3 million investment on renewable energy sources. We know the importance of Warham homes and energy efficiency. So yeah, just delighted with that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Scott, and I didn't see your hand up. I do apologise. Okay, we'll move to the recommendations. Recommendation 1, note the progress made to date on the delivery of the Tay-Cities regional deal. Recommendation 2, note that the Tay-Cities Joint Committee has agreed a process to reshape the second half of the deal to ensure delivery of the original agreed outcomes. Number 3, note the progress made to date on the delivery of Angus projects within the Tay-Cities regional deal and Industrial Investment Fund. And 4, remit the Director of Infrastructure and Environment to provide a further report on any proposed Strand 2 projects within Angus that will be presented as part of the reshaping process. Is this agreed? Thank you. Moving on, number 6, Angus Council Corporate and Area-Wide Climate Change Activities Update 24/25. And to present this, we've got Graham Daly.
Thank you, convener. This report provides an update on the progress and implementation of the Angus Council Transition to Net Zero Action Plan, the Angus Local Heat and Energy Efficiency Strategy, and the Angus Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan. Members are asked to agree the progress reports that are presented in the appendices to the report. A significant amount of work has been undertaken to prepare these reports, and I am joined in the chamber by members of the team who will be best placed to answer any questions regarding the progress reports. Thank you, Convener.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Councillor Shepherd.
Thanks, Convener. A really interesting report, and there's a lot of ambition in there. I just want to ask on some of the realistic viability of some of the possibilities, particularly perhaps on page 68 of the document. I'll just read a little bit there. Despite the challenges, there are huge opportunities for Angus. There are over 30,000 domestic buildings deemed highly suitable for heat pump retrofit. And then also later on it goes to say there are 5 potential heat network zones have also been identified in Angus. Just on some rough maths, I think for that 30,000 heat pumps to be paid for would cost around £225 million. I don't really see that matching with UK, Scottish Government or council levels of funding. So I'm just wondering, realistically, how many heat pumps do we envisage seeing by 2030? And of these 5 identified heat network zones, what is the real viability of delivering those in Angus? I ask that just because I think sometimes in the media we're a bit over-promising. Governments can over-promise, and I think this document has high ambition, but for me, I wonder where the funding is coming for some of the things in this document. So I appreciate all the work that Karen's done in this, and I appreciate that because I know it comes from the Scottish Government. For us as a council, we have to make this document. So I really find the document interesting. I've been to all the sessions, so I'm certainly not having a go at anybody in the room, but I just think it's important to stress that how deliverable is this to the general public, and what can they actually see happening here in Angus? Thanks very much, Karen.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Funding is, I don't know if I want to probably call it a challenge. I don't want to say a barrier, but a challenge. There will be some people who, can get heat pumps and other measures funded for them, but there will be a lot of people that aren't eligible for that at all. So, yeah, it is kind of down to the individual, I suppose, just now, and you might get some people who are, quite keen on being sustainable and things like that, and regardless of the price will crack on. But you might just find that your average person just doesn't have the money for that and will stick with their gas boiler until it sort of comes to the end of its life, kind of thing. 35,000, that's what came out of the LHE's analysis. How many of them will get done by 2030, I honestly couldn't say. I don't know. I really don't know. The heat networks, I've actually spoken to the Heat Network Support Unit, so they're funded by the Scottish Government, and they were quite keen for us to look at Montrose. So we've gone through, we're just in the process of finishing off, going through the Danish District Heat and Mentoring Programme, which has been really good. And that kind of gives me a bit of confidence to go forward and hopefully put an application into the Heat Network Support Unit to hopefully get some funding to get the heat network in Montrose sort of looked at and hopefully a feasibility study done. But yeah, that's kind of feasibility, see what happens after that.
Thank you. Councillor Proctor.
Thank you very much, Convener. Again, just on the same line, when we're talking about heat pumps, and I appreciate what you said about the figure that you got, but there's many properties in Angus that aren't suitable for heat pumps, and indeed I've been sort of plagued by a group that's going about trying to install installation, and because my property, I have a converted attic, I don't qualify for loft insulation, so you have that throughout the county. So in the future, do you see any financial assistance to people who live in such properties where heat pumps are not, wouldn't fit in, but they could maybe be adapted. Will there be any forthcoming funds to alleviate that, do you think?
Thank you for the question. I honestly couldn't say, to be honest. That's, when you do look at the figures from the LHEs, there are a lot of buildings in Angus that are going to be very, very hard to treat. Obviously up in Kerry, like obviously the red stone, obviously Arbroath, Forfar, traditional stone, I honestly don't know what extra funding will be made available, because what you class as a hard to treat building is, well, hard to treat, and it's going to be more expensive, probably more bespoke solutions are going to be required, etc. And to meet that gap between a regular installation and a more complicated installation, I don't know who's going to fund that gap.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. On a different tack here, page 48, and it's talking about the resilience groups. Now, it's great to see that there's now 18 resilience groups. I don't know if you can answer this question or if it should be Vibrant Communities who's doing this, but the figures are really heartening. I was wondering if you know what percentage of these are rural as opposed to urban. I know I'm always going on about this, because I know it's much more difficult in urban areas to get people together to do this kind of thing. But as the weather gets worse, more winds, more rain, more storms and everything like that, it's going to be really, really important that people do get themselves together to find out how to be resilient under these circumstances. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Devine. Okay. Councillor Duff, did you have a hand up?
Thank you for the question. I can't answer specifically your question. I don't know the breakdown as rural to urban. Any work I've been involved in with the team, there has been discussion of areas around Tannadice, Finavon, and there has been a lot of discussion recently of more rural areas. And we have done quite a lot of work with the team lately through the Climate Ready Tayside initiative that's evolved. And we did hold our first regional climate resilience event for communities last month over in Rattray at Blairgowrie. And we did go out into the surrounding countryside there to look at flood, the monitors for culverts like they have in Elvert in Edsel, where you can then be contacted via WhatsApp on flood mitigation there and just awareness. So from my experience of what I've been involved in with the team, there has been a lot of rural work going on too, but we could get those figures for you and feed that back. Okay.
Councillor Duff.
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I had a couple of questions probably for the Director. I mean, first question really is, do we have enough staff internally to do whatever we have to do in terms of climate change? I'm conscious that a lot of the LHE stuff, we had to look for consultants who could give us advice on that, because there was a huge amount of work that had to be done, and there were only so many consultants around the country that could assist. So that's a question. The other, it's a concern I've got, but I'll pose it as a question. As far as I'm led to believe, regulations in terms of renting houses are going to change in a few years' time, so that the energy efficiency or the insulation of the houses will have to have a certain standard before you can rent it out. Now, I would say, looking at a lot of our towns, we have a lot of low-cost, poor-quality rented housing. And if landlords are going to have to spend a lot of money upgrading these properties, the worry I have is either they won't bother and they'll rent it out effectively illegally, or they'll simply say, we aren't going to invest that money in this property. And we may then we've already got a housing emergency. That's the problem I see, that, I can see them saying, I'm not going to spend £20,000 on a flat that's worth 50,000, you know what I mean? And they may decide not to pull out of the rented market. So what happens if that happens? And I think that was a real concern I have. just looking at my own ward, and I'm sure that other parts of Angus will be similar. So that's a concern I've got. I'm posing that as a question.
To address the staffing question first, I would observe that delivering the various plans obviously is quite broad and relies on a number of different services, staff groups, and I think Councillor Shepherd's earlier question in terms of financial resources as well to deliver it is dependent on a lot of that. I think maybe just being a bit more specific, I think in the reports it does make reference, especially the internal team. We have Kellyanne and Karen with us today who have done the power of work pairing this. We are bolstering that team, and maybe just invite Kellyanne just to expand upon that.
Yeah, I can expand upon that. So I suppose just to point out, at this point in time, the Environment and Climate Change team is the largest it's ever been at any time. So that's really encouraging. But on the other hand, we do now have more statutory functions for nature and environment climate, lots of strategies to prepare. So our workload has dramatically increased in the last 20 years. So we do currently have 5 members of staff, but we have received money through a previous committee for revenue funding for a nature restoration fund post for biodiversity, and we are going to make a bid to the LHES funding pot, which runs till 27 to 28, to have another climate-focused member of staff. So that would be 2 new graduate level posts in the team, which we hope to progress in the next, I would say, into the new year, early new year.
And the second part of your question, Councillor Duff, was just regarding the private rental market and the potential for increased requirements in terms of insulation, the costs associated with that. I think that's a challenge one to ask. Again, I think my observation would be that the private landlord market has been subject to a number of additional requirements, whether it's gas safety checks, electrical testing, and other means that that has responded to in the past. And I think these additional requirements, I think if they become a prerequisite, then I think it's something that the market's shown it does adapt to in future. However, I think that's quite a broad statement to say that, so I would maybe just qualify that without knowing the detail involved in terms of what's required. I think going in the future, whether it's 10 years or more, I think in terms of the requirements, whether it's the transition away from gas boilers to electric or various measures, I think are likely to come in the future, and is something that I think the sector will need to adapt to. I would agree it is an issue, but as I said, I think it's something that that sector has adapted to other challenges in the past.
Thank you, Councillor Whiteside.
Thank you, Convener, and thanks for all the information. I mean, there's obviously a huge amount of work going on, and it's good to hear that the team's bigger than it has been. But given the amount of work, could you do with even more resource? And would that be something that might be addressed in the forthcoming budget as an ask for more resource? And secondly, I was really pleased to hear about the heat network support and the collaboration with Danish colleagues, and I'm just wondering if that work is progressing at speed and is likely to produce any results anytime soon.
I'll maybe the more resource question, I'll pass over the more technical question to my colleagues. In terms of more resource, I think it is the balance in terms of we have so many competing priorities as a council, and I think the danger here is I think we have a duty to be realistic in terms of we prioritise our limited resource. I think we do have procedures where I think as officers there is an opportunity if we raise there's budget issues. Hopefully members are encouraged by the update we received from Kellyanne that the team is being bolstered. And I would just again draw attention to the fact that delivering a lot of these targets is quite it's broader than just one specific team. It really is cross-country and beyond, cross-council and beyond in terms of how we deliver the targets in there. But yes, there is a mechanism where if there is a budget issue, I think as officers we'll bring it forward. But the team is being strengthened, as Kellyanne updated. And I will now, I think probably Karen, to update the second part.
Yes, so the Danish Board of District Heating programme we've been on, it's actually UK-wide this time round. So yeah, it's been like a series of webinars and like in-person meetings and things like that, where the Danish embassy has kind of taken sort of case studies from sort of towns that are kind of similar-ish to what we have in Scotland and showed us how they've developed heat networks over the years. Like, we are like so far behind. I'm quite jealous of them, to be honest. So it's just really like learning from them and seeing how things are done. Obviously the sort of regulatory environment is a lot different over there to here too. So there are sort of challenges on that side of things too. But in terms of like my learning, it's just been good to see how you do it, and it'd just be good to see if something could happen here. If it is feasible. They obviously started their infrastructure many years ago, and we're going to be sort of retrofitting rather than putting it in at the start. So yeah, we'll see where it takes us, but it has been exciting, and hopefully we can progress something.
Just to follow up on that, we've just heard that there's lots of additional Tay-Cities money. Can we have a little bit of collaboration there?
Councillor Devine.
Thanks. I just wonder if I could follow up on that. Quite a few years ago, there was talk about using the heat in Forfar Loch, and I wondered if any of the case studies that you saw from Denmark included anything like that, because that would be really exciting. I mean, people were excited about it then, but it didn't happen. But yeah, that would be good to know about. Thanks.
Yeah, the Danish ones, the examples we've seen didn't have any like sort of water sourced sort of heat pump kind of things. It was, they were all more, kind of electrically heat pump, and I hate to say it, gas. But yeah, there wasn't anything, but yeah, I don't know. It's something that need to be looked at, because I do remember the report you were on about. It was a few years ago now. I think there was kind of some technical constraints, but obviously things have moved on since then. I wouldn't say no, but yeah, see what happens.
Thank you. Any further questions? Comments? Councillor Cowdy.
Thanks very much. So I'm so aware of how much work goes into this report from Karen and the rest of the team. So huge thanks for that. I think Councillor Shepherd hit the nail on the head when he said it's ambitious, and it's obviously a lot of this is driven by national government requests and statutory requirements. And I think my concern is that national governments set a lot of climate change targets and then don't stick to them. And I don't think it's helpful for teams in local government and others who have to then rejig and rethink and reposition in that way. So I guess I really hope going forward that it is a climate emergency. It's been acknowledged as such. And so I would like the national governments to help the local governments by sticking to the targets they set. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shepherd.
Thanks, Convener. Yes, there's been some really interesting discussion and debate there. And, energy is a hot topic across Scotland at the moment. And, I think this report and the LHEs as well has given us all a better feel for the housing stock and what is equipped for heating pumps and what isn't. And I think all the local authorities across Scotland will have a different, we're a more rural one, so we'll have a very different journey than perhaps, say, Edinburgh City Council. So for me, I'll be focusing going forward on what wins we can have here in Angus, rather than fixation on the targets, because any small win we can do is less emissions if we're on that right journey. But the reality is, it is quite an uphill struggle from a feasibility point, the housing stock and the funding. But what we can do, I'm sure we will deliver on that. So, you know, I feel we're at a honest place and we'll have a much stronger point of where we're at on that journey now. So thanks very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Devine.
Thanks, Convener. I was pleased to see that there was a webinar taking place with Home Energy Scotland for homeowners and landlord sessions, Business Energy Scotland, Local Energy Scotland, and I'm just hoping that there was a good turnout at that and that people really took it on. I'm not seeing it being very positive in actual fact. That is a real shame because we really do need all of these people to come together to understand the absolute vital need that we have to go forward with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Proctor.
Thank you very much, Convener. I'd just like to thank you again on a very comprehensive report. And just looking through the appendixes, I just hope that it won't be too long before the updates which are shown in amber are turned to green. No pun intended.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, we'll move to the recommendations. Recommendations are: number 1, agree the transition to net zero action plan 24-25 progress report as detailed in Appendix 1. Number 2, agree the local heat and energy efficiency strategy delivery plan 24-25 progress report in Appendix 2. And 3, agree the Angus Sustainable Energy and Climate Action Plan second phase delivery programme progress report as in Appendix 3. Is that agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Item agenda number 7, South Links Holiday Park Montrose 12-month optional residency. And to introduce this is Graham Daly.
Thank you, Convener. As outlined in the report, customers at the South Links Holiday Park in Montrose approached Angus Council asking for the option of a 12-month year-round residency. In response, a questionnaire was distributed to all customers which showed a clear majority of those who responded in favour of a 12-month optional residency. With the majority supporting the change and noting the consideration of the risks highlighted in the report, it is proposed to implement both 11 and 12-month annual leases, thus making the site residential in part and open all year to residents only. Local elected members were closely consulted on the proposals and confirmed their support, and I am joined by Bruce Reekie, Service Leader for Environmental Services, who will be available to answer any questions on the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Do we have any questions? Councillor Whiteside.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr Daly. That's the only caravan park I'm aware of that is owned by the council, is that correct?
Not exactly, because we own the land at the caravan park in Moneyfeith and also at Forfar-Loch, and we have a rental agreement with the operators, a long-term agreement. But however, the South Links Holiday Park is the only one that we operate. Our Parks Department operate the actual park.
Just curious if this decision would have any implications in either other parks that we own and don't operate, or privately owned and operated parks. I mean, normally residential parks have got a restriction in the period of time that people can stay there. Are there any implications, and is it likely to open the floodgates for other ones changing? And if so, is that a problem or something we would be quite happy with?
There are examples in Angus of private owned and operated parks that do have all year round residencies. I'm aware of an example in Arbroath and another one in Barry, and I think there may be others in there. So it's not set in a precedent. I think if operators of holiday parks will be well aware of, and I'm sure have considered the pros and cons of making it, and it's really a commercial decision for those private operators whether they proceed or not. I would just make you aware that these are licensed the holiday parks. So again, not my area of expertise, but I think if there was such a proposal to change from holiday or temporary residencies to permanent, I think that would have an implication on their licence, and potentially they would need permission through licensing for that.
Thank you. Any further? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. Just wanted to double check something. The caravan park in Forfar, that belongs to the Forfar Common Good rather than the council, is that correct?
That's a good observation, Councillor Gregg, and I think you may have caught me out there when I said that. I think, yes, I believe you are correct, but I would, before confirm that, I think I would check just the register of Forfar Common Good, and I believe consider its proximity to Forfar. I think the chances are it will be on Common Good land.
Just to clarify, I've just checked the up-to-date register that I have, and it does belong to Forfar Common Good.
I stand corrected.
Thank you. Any further questions? Any comments?
Yeah, thanks, Convener. I think as a sort of piece of absolutely useless information, I think the South Links at Montrose was also Common Good, but was purchased by Montrose Town Council in the 1960s from the Common Good Fund to allow them to operate a caravan site. But that wasn't what I was wanting to say. I think I'm really pleased to see this come forward. I know there's been a lot of work taken place by Mr Daly and his team, and now Mr Reeky's come on board. I think there's a lot of residents that were fairly upset with developments at South Links, with issues we had with a previous operator who was closed down by the council. And I think we've come up with a pragmatic solution, I think, there to satisfy the needs, the requirements, the wishes of many of the residents, and I'm really pleased to see that. So well done to all there. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Duff. And I would just add that I think it's probably the way forward. It is going to bring in extra site fees, albeit they will be quite small. It's only an extra month extra that they would be getting there. But it also brings in council tax as well. So it's a win-win for the council as far as I can see. Any further comments? No, we'll move to the recommendations then. Recommendations are: number 1, approve the option of a 12-month year-round residency at South Links Holiday Park. And number 2, note that if recommendation 1 is approved, the associated street name will be Trail Drive. Is the recommendations agreed? Agreed. Thank you. Last agenda item today is number 8, stopping up of part of the public road at Knox Close, Newtile. And that is Mr Daly again.
Thank you. This report relates to a proposal to stop up part of Knox Close, Newtile, following a formal request for the removal of a turning head by the title holder. I would draw to members' attention that the promotion and making of this stopping up order is required to discharge the planning condition as detailed in the report, and I am joined by Mr Barnes from the roads team in case there are any queries regarding the matter.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions? No questions. Any comments? Okay, we'll move to the recommendations. Recommendations number 1, note the request to stop up a part of Knox Close, Newtile. Number 2, agree to the promotion and making, if unopposed, of a stopping up order to extinguish the public right of passage over that part of Knox Close, Newtile. Number 3, Agree to the Director of Infrastructure and Environment bringing a report back to the Communities Committee if there are any objections to the stopping up order that cannot be resolved, and there is the requirement to submit to Scottish Ministers for confirmation. And finally, agree to deletion of the stopped up part of the road from the list of public roads if the stopping up order is confirmed. Is that agreed? Thank you very much, and thank you for your attendance today.